Hi, welcome back to my channel. My name is Holly Starkey, fantasy story editor. I edit all subgenres of fantasy. So in today's video, I wanted to make a new video for my world building series. I'm going to be focusing on magic. So this is going to be part one of several videos because of course you can never cover the complete topic of magic in just one video. You can make probably a dozen videos and still not exhaust the topic of magic. So I want to talk about for part one, how to set, not how and why you should set limits to your magic that's used in your story world, and of course also giving that magic a price. So for example, let's say you've been working on your story idea for a while, you have your plot together, you have your characters the way you want them, and you're working on fleshing out that story world. You're creating this magic system and you have all these notes about all the details of the magic system, and the notes, there's more words in the notes than there are in the entire story, and that's okay. It's actually pretty normal, but you want to make sure what you have in your magic system are limits or a price that people pay when they use magic, because if you don't set limits, your world, not your story and your plot and characters become boring and predictable, because any challenge that comes along, the reader starts to see that they're just using magic to get out of every situation, and it's not challenging for the character, and therefore the reader gets bored, the story becomes predictable, and people usually stop reading at that point because they're like, well, yes, they're going to face this horde of zombies, but they're just going to use their magic to get out of it the same way they have all the other dozen situations that the character has been in. So you want to make sure that you go ahead and give whatever magic system set limits. So for example, in this series, it's called The Secrets of the Immortal Nicholas Flamel, written by Michael Scott. In that series, he populates his world with very powerful beings and people. They can do all kinds of things, very extraordinary things, and some of them are like the best of their category of powers. But what he does is he sets limits early on in the story. So he starts to, as he's introducing his reader to the magic system, and I'll probably do another video about how to introduce magic to your readers, how to slowly build up your magic system so your reader fully understands it. But as he is doing that, as he is slowly introducing his readers to his magic system, he's slowly setting limits to what magic can do. And he doesn't just have magic, he has other types of powers, in his books. But he slowly sets those limits. But he also makes it so that the characters can do amazing things, but they can't keep doing amazing things because, for example, sometimes an ability is tied to your personal energy. So that's pretty common in a fantasy novel, where you can't just keep using an ability over and over again because it costs you something physically. It starts to deplete you. And in the Alchemist series, for some of the characters, they keep using their abilities. It would kill them because they push themselves too far. So that's something that you can do. He uses that to set limits. He also has, maybe if you're in a certain area, your abilities can't be used, so you're forced to not use them. You're forced to use other ways to get out of situations. And what this does, it makes the story very interesting, because you're thinking, I know a few chapters ago, the character had depleted all of their abilities, but they also are now facing another issue. And how are they going to get out of that issue? So Michael Scott lets the characters use different things to get out. Maybe they do something in nature and pull from a power in nature, or maybe they just use their wits, or maybe they actually call on a friend, which introduces a new character into the story, or maybe they don't escape from the situation and they get caught and they have to now work on how to escape from being caught. So there are so many roadblocks that he throws at his characters because he doesn't have a system of abilities that are like indestructible, and they can do anything and everything. He does set those limits, even with the powerful characters that he has. Also, you can make sure that your antagonists also has limits. So the Alchemist series, there's the antagonists there are also pretty big and powerful, but they also have their limits. Make sure that you set limits for anybody who uses any kind of special ability. And the same for, even if it's not a special ability, let's say they're an expert sword fighter. You want to make sure that they can't just sword fight their way out of every single situation. Want to make sure that you give them limits. Every character with any kind of ability, whether it's a magical or non-magical, that ability needs to have limits. So again, I hope that was helpful. It's just a way to help improve the magic or powers in your story world, and it's actually not a terribly hard. That's not a real word. It's not a really hard fix. It's something that can be done with a little bit of work, just going back through and adding those limits and introducing those limits to your readers. Also with the series, The Secrets of the Immortal Nicholas Flamel, I definitely recommend you read it. It's an amazing series. It is very complicated in terms of point of view. There's a lot of point of view shifts. There are many plot threads. So it's, from a writing point of view, it's a very complex book to write. From a reader's point of view, it's a very pleasurable book to read. I do not recommend making your first book as complex as his series. That wasn't his first book. I think he had done, I want to say 12 books before this, or maybe even more. But he had already had many books out before he did The Secrets of the Immortal Nicholas Flamel. I believe he said, because he mentions at the end of every book, he talks about the process of writing that book. I want to say he said he spent 7 or 10 years working on the story idea before it was even done. So of course, if you want something very long and complex, you know, you got to put the effort into it, and it doesn't have to be your first story. I've just gone off on a little tangent here, but it's important that I say this. Your first story doesn't have to be some uber complicated story like Game of Thrones, or even The Secrets of the Immortal Nicholas Flamel, or Lord of the Rings, where you have entire language that you've created. You don't have to start off like that. You can make it easier on yourself and start off with a story that is less complex but still just as compelling, because there are plenty of stories that aren't anywhere near as complex as Game of Thrones, Lord of the Rings, or even the Alchemist series, and they're still compelling and enjoyable reads. So again, thank you so much for watching. I hope that tip helped you in your writing journey. So I'm going to be doing a new video every day about writing. Some days I'm going to go ahead and do a world building video. Other days I'm just going to do a general writing tip. And I thought about adding in book reviews, because I am a huge reader. I'm a reader first. And so I read over 100 novels a year. So I thought about doing a few videos where I review a book that I've read and recommend it to you guys. If I really didn't like a book, like I thought it was awful, I wouldn't review it on YouTube. I don't know, it seems a little too mean to say how much I disliked a book and then tear it apart on camera. I just wouldn't do that. It just seems too mean. But I thought about doing that. So let me know what y'all think. Are you guys interested in seeing videos where I do book reviews? Are you liking these writing tip videos that I do? I'm also working on a video about the editing process. So I want to show you how I edit a story. So I can't show you, of course, stories I've already edited for privacy reasons. I can't show you another author's work, but I'm looking through stories that I've written myself in the past. I don't write a lot. I really love editing more so than writing. But I found a story that I wrote, maybe 7 years ago, It's about 7 years old. So it's going to be like reading it for the first time. So I thought about going through the first chapter of that, editing it, and then making a video where I'm recording my screen and I'm showing you guys the edits I made and the notes I made at the end of the chapter. Also, I think that would be good for you in terms of you're wanting to do more self-editing. I think these are also great tips for self-editing. So that's a video I'm working on that should be coming out shortly. But I will have a new video for you tomorrow, because I do new videos daily. And I will see you in the next video. Bye.